My name is Marcus Hale. I'm 35. I do copywriting for a marketing agency, mostly product descriptions and email campaigns nobody reads twice. And I own a cardboard sign with a stranger's name on it that I have used exactly once in my life, for a woman who turned out not to be a stranger for very long. The airport was not the point. The airport was just the excuse the universe used. Her name was Iris Calloway. She was 30, did environmental consulting that took her overseas more often than not. Anne kept a single carabiner clipped to her bag strap from a trip she never explained in full, just enough to make it clear the story mattered without inviting questions about it. She had a way of assessing a room in about 4 seconds and deciding exactly how much of herself to give it. My sister Reagan had been talking about her for 2 years. College roommate, the one who texted at 3 a.m. From a different continent, the one Reagan swore I'd either love or be intimidated by, with no real in-between option offered. We'd never actually met. 2 years of secondhand stories, a few comments traded on Reagan's photos, nothing more substantial than that. Reagan had a habit of mentioning Edith in conversations that had nothing to do with her, bringing her up over dinner, forwarding a photo from some overseas trip with a caption like, "Doesn't this remind you of that thing you said once?" Building a case for someone I'd never met, with the patience of a woman who had. Decided years ago how this was going to go and was simply waiting for the rest of us to catch up. I'd absorbed 2 years of Iris secondhand, the carabiner story she half told. A running joke about a terrible hostel in Lisbon. The fact that she once talked her way out of a customs issue using nothing but extremely calm eye contact. According to Reagan, who clearly thought this was the most romantic fact a person could know about someone. Reagan was supposed to pick Iris up from the airport that night and got stuck at urgent care with her toddler instead, which left me holding a phone, a set of flight details, an instruction to just go. She'll find you. She's seen pictures. I had not seen pictures. This seemed in retrospect like an oversight someone should have corrected. I made the sign in the car, in the parking garage. On the back of a pizza box lid, I had no good explanation for having in my trunk. Iris, in marker, slightly crooked, because I was balancing the lid on my knee while writing. I stood at the arrivals gate holding it like a man who had clearly never done this before, because I clearly never had. She found me before I found her. A woman in a gray coat walked straight up, looked at the sign, looked at me, and said, "You're not what I pictured." Is that good or bad? Undetermined. I'll let you know by baggage claim. That got the laugh out of me before I could stop it. Reagan said you'd either love me or be intimidated by me. I'm gathering this is option 3. There's no option 3 in her framework. You're forcing me to invent one on the spot, which is rude, given I just got off an 11-hour flight. I'll add it to the list of things I owe you for tonight. That list is already longer than you think. The pizza box alone added 2 items. We started walking toward baggage claim, her rolling a carry-on that had clearly seen more departures than most luggage survives, and I noticed the carabiner on her bag strap, scratched and worn in a way that suggested it had been somewhere that mattered. "Regan's at urgent care," I said. "Her son ate something he shouldn't have. He's fine." She felt terrible about not being here. Of course she did. She's been planning this pickup for 2 weeks. She sent me a full itinerary. Edith pulled out her phone, scrolled and read off the screen in a flat deadpan voice. "Marcus will be holding a sign because I told him to make it fun. It will not make it fun. Lower your expectations now." That's slander. It's a direct quote, Marcus. The sign has your name on it, in marker, on a pizza box. That's effort. That's the bare minimum dressed up as effort. I have poor survival instincts around women who can read a sentence flatly enough to make it devastating. I should probably get that looked at. We got her bags loaded into my car, and the night had gone cold in the specific way late fall does. The kind of cold that makes your breath visible and makes everyone walk a little faster than they normally would. The parking garage smelled like exhaust and rain that hadn't quite started yet. And somewhere above us, a plane took off, the sound swallowing the rest of the lot for a few seconds before fading out. "So what's the carabiner from?" I asked once we were on the highway, because I'd been wondering since the gate and had run out of patience for not asking. She went quiet for a second, the kind of quiet that meant she was deciding how much to actually say, "Tanzania." 2 years ago, a project that went sideways in a way I don't usually tell strangers about in cars. I'm not exactly a stranger. I'm the brother. You're a stranger wearing a brother's resume. Same thing, different cover page. That landed somewhere I felt it. We talked for the rest of the drive about nothing important. Her work trips, my job writing sentences nobody remembers. Ragan's increasingly elaborate attempts to set us up without admitting that's what she was doing. Edie's had a way of asking a follow-up question, right when I thought the conversation had run its course, like she was testing whether there was more underneath the first answer. There usually was. I found myself giving her the second, truer answer more than once, which wasn't something I did easily with people I'd known for 2 hours. Regan talks about you a lot, I said, somewhere past the city limits. She talks about you a lot too, more than she probably realizes. What does she say? Edith looked out the window instead of at me, the lights of passing cars sliding across her face in quick strips. That you're better than you think you are, and worse at admitting it than anyone she's ever met. Her words, not mine. Though I've now spent 2 hours with you, and I'm inclined to agree with at least the second half. I didn't have a joke ready for that, which probably told her something by the simple fact of its absence. We dropped her bags at Reagan's place, since Edie's was staying there for the week, and Reagan texted that she was still at urgent care but everything was fine. Just a long wait. And that we should obviously hang out. Don't just drop her off like a package, Marcus. She flew 11 hours. So we ended up on Reagan's porch. Instead, 2 mugs of tea neither of us had been planning on. The streetlight buzzing faintly overhead the way streetlights do when they're deciding whether to actually work tonight. You know, Edie said, in 2 years of hearing about you, I never once pictured someone who'd write a sign on a pizza box. I pictured someone more put together. Ragan's very put together. I assumed it ran in the family. It skipped me. I got the pizza box gene instead. I'm starting to think the pizza box gene is doing more work than you're giving it credit for. She wrapped both hands around her mug, looking at the street instead of at me, the way people do when they're deciding how much of something to actually say. I almost canceled this trip, you know. Work thing came up. I could have pushed the flight. I didn't, and I keep asking myself why, and I think I already know the answer, and I don't love how obvious it is. I went still. Not dramatically, just still. The mug warm in my hands. The porch light catching the scratched edge of that carabiner. One more time. What's the answer? You're going to make me say it on a porch. I've been on for 10 minutes. I think you should say it on a porch you've been on for 10 minutes. Seems fitting, honestly, given the pizza box precedent we've already set tonight. She laughed, short and surprised, and looked at me directly for the first time since we'd sat down. Reagan's been talking about you to me for 2 years. I've been talking about you to her too, more than I ever told her outright, because admitting it felt like admitting something I wasn't ready to admit to myself. I didn't almost cancel this trip because of work. I almost canceled it because some part of me knew meeting you in person was going to make this a lot harder to keep pretending it wasn't real. Something in my chest didn't tighten so much as drop, all at once, like it had been bracing for something it didn't know it was bracing for until it didn't have to anymore. You don't have to keep going, I said. We can finish this tea and pretend the last 30 seconds didn't happen, if you want the exit. She looked at me for a second too long. One full second passed where it would have been safe to look away, and didn't take it. I don't want the exit. Okay. My voice came out rougher than I meant it to. Then I should tell you something, and it's not about the sign. She didn't say anything, just waited, moved very still in her hands, which from her was its own kind of loud. Every woman I've dated in the last few years felt temporary while I was dating them, like a placeholder for something that hadn't shown up yet. I've known you for exactly 3 hours and you've already managed to feel less temporary than most of them did after months, which is either a very good sign or a sign I've been dating poorly for years. I think it's both. It's definitely both. That's not comforting. I didn't say it to comfort you. I said it because it's true. She set her mug down on the porch step. Slow, careful. For the record, Regan didn't just casually mention you over the years. She built a whole case file. You have opinions about your job, your taste in movies, and apparently your tendency to undersell yourself, all secondhand, all before I'd ever met you. I came into tonight more informed about you than you probably are about me. The porch got very quiet. Not heavy quiet, just still, the way air gets right before weather changes. She reached over and took my hand, moved fully abandoned now, fingers closing around mine like she'd already decided this somewhere over the Atlantic and had just been waiting for the right porch. For the record, she said, the carabiner's not actually from Tanzania. That part's true. But I started carrying it because Regan once said it reminded her of you, structurally sound and slightly beat up, and I never told her I kept it on for that reason specifically. That is the strangest compliment I've ever received. It's the truest one I've given anyone in a while. That landed harder than the confession had. Down the street, a car door slammed, and a dog somewhere started barking at the sound, and the streetlight finally gave up its buzzing and steadied into a plain, settled glow. Like even the porch had decided the moment had earned a little stillness. This porch has had opinions about our timing all night, she said. It's been listening since the pizza box. I'm a little embarrassed for it. You should be. It waded through some genuinely mediocre small talk to get here. 3 months later, the carabiner had a second one clipped next to it. Mine, equally scratched now from 3 months of actual use instead of just symbolism. We still argue about whether the sign should count as effort. I still maintain it does, on the grounds that cardboard is a renewable resource and therefore inherently noble. A year after that, when Regan's son turned 2, she introduced Edie's to the rest of the family as the one I basically had to fly across the world and then abandon at urgent care to get these two to actually talk, which neither of us denied. Mostly because denying it would have required explaining the actual sequence of events, which was somehow both more boring and more accurate. By then, Edie's overseas trips had a standing rule attached to them. She called me from every airport she passed through, no matter the hour, because the first call from that first night had apparently set an unbreakable precedent. I still keep a flattened pizza box in my trunk, for reasons I've stopped trying to justify to anyone who asks. She still travels with that scratch carabiner, and a second one now riding next to it, and she still tells people the truth about why, even though for the first year she swore she never would. 2 years later, when people ask how we met, I tell them the airport pickup, because it's the true one. Edie's always adds the part about the pizza box sign, because she says that's the part that actually mattered. The part where I showed up looking exactly as unprepared and exactly as real as 2 years of secondhand stories have never quite managed to capture. Nothing about us looks dramatic from the outside. We still bicker about cardboard. She still steals my hoodies for layovers and claims altitude requires it. The only real difference is that now when she goes quiet deciding how much of something to say, I get to wait for the rest of it on purpose. Every time. It wasn't new, in the end. It had probably always been somewhere in 2 years of secondhand stories, waiting for one flight delay and one sick toddler to finally put 2 people in the same car. What would you have done if you picked up a virtual stranger from the airport and she told you within the first 5 minutes that you weren't what she pictured? And have you ever kept something small on you for years without admitting to anyone, including yourself, why you really kept it? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.